today to have on Edge Garcia, staff writer for the Daily Lobo and a contributor for the Pit Press. He is doing a hell of a job covering UNM football. Edge, thank you for coming on, man. Good to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Sean. Means more than you know, man.
Hey, no, you're doing a heck of a job and wanted to get you on and talk a little bit of ball. But before we get into that, at one point we're going to stop talking about legal proceedings in terms of UNM football, but that is not today. Some breaking news this morning. We were recording on Friday, August 21st, so this could be a little outdated depending on what happens. But as of right now, this morning, the 10th Circuit of Appeals granted the NCAA stay request in Wisney versus NCAA. That is, long story short, that is the case that yielded the class-wide preliminary injunction that has allowed hundreds, if not, probably just hundreds of class 2022 high school graduates that played 4 seasons in 4 years and then were not granted a 5th year of eligibility when the NCAA went to its new 5-for-5 age-based eligibility model. Of course, UNM has 2 guys right now playing under that, or were playing under that. Defensive end Brett Carhu, and I've been saying safety Azaria Levels. He's really more of a cornerback right now. He's really been playing a lot more corner. Those guys are now currently ineligible. They had been practicing under that. Carhu does have a separate lawsuit filed here in New Mexico. I'm looking to try and talk to his lawyer later today, and hopefully by the time this is out, we'll have a story on that. Levels, I am not sure. He told me at the beginning of camp that he was going to file a lawsuit of his own. I don't know which state, though. I did want to start with this, though. Because on one hand, it is a blow to lose guys like Carhu and Levels. On the other hand, I remember kind of watching the first few practices, and I felt like I saw kind of maybe a little bit more than I was expecting from the pass rush beyond Carhu to maybe say, well, if he was ruled ineligible, this might not be the biggest deal. Although Carhu, this is a better team with Carhu on it. What do you think about the possibility that UNM might not have Carhu and Levels for the season?
Yeah, like you mentioned, the depth behind him has been evident. Guys have been flashing left and right. Obviously, he's been phenomenal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
clear. I mean, he was running with the ones for a reason, and he brings a healthy amount of energy. He pairs really nicely with Darren Agu. But the guys behind him, Jalen Charles, Elijah Brody, Albert Tuakalulu, those guys have all been very impactful on defense when they've had their chance to shine. And to say there wouldn't be any drop off, I think is kind of taking it a little maybe too far. But you should feel confident about the group behind Carhu if he, isn't able to play.
That's kind of how I felt initially, and I think that feeling's held even as Carhu has played really well throughout camp. Levels, I think, I don't think it's as big of a deal in the sense that he wasn't competing for one of the starting cornerback spots. Those have been kind of locked up really since the start of camp. I do want to ask you though, who do you think? I would go Tuaklau, Albert, if Carhu's not eligible. Who do you think would pick up that other edge rusher spot on the first team defense?
My guess would be Albert,
Yeah.
but I do think it would be a healthy rotation. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, outside of Agu, who I think has really solidified himself as kind of the 1A option, I think it would be a healthy rotation. Maybe you get to a point in the season where one of the guys is just separating themselves from the other, and it's kind of hard to take him off the field, and he's more of a 3-down kind of player. But my guess would be it would be Albert as well.
I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And Agu, he's locked in at that jack spot, and the jack spot gives you you have a lot of responsibility there. Albert, I don't know if he has the build in particular to be a true 3-down guy, but I do really like what he's given them rushing the passer. Yesterday, Thursday, August 20th, for those who might be listening later, was UNM's second scrimmage of fall camp. They went, I don't know if they went as many places as they did in the first scrimmage, but they definitely went a good deal. Kind of an interesting day in a lot of respects. James Laubstein was not live. He took every single drive with the ones. Moga was live for a couple drives, I think 2, if I remember. Luke Moga. He had his first drive of the day. I thought he was pretty darn good in a lot of respects. Really a lot sharper as a passer than he probably was in the first scrimmage. And the Telefave, not as maybe not as overall effective or as kind of eye-popping as he was in the first scrimmage. He did have a pick, I believe CJ McBean was the one who intercepted it. And kind of had one throw that, your guy, Trey Moore, ended up kind of bailing him out on, and that Eck admitted later was probably a little bit of an ill-advised decision, but ended up being a catch, ended up being a gain. What were your kind of takeaways from the second scrimmage, and especially in regards to the quarterbacks?
Obviously it's hard when Laubstein maybe isn't going fully live. I thought he ran well. We all kind of know what he can do on the ground, like Ek has mentioned before. There wasn't anything significant there that maybe kind of made you go, oh, he's clearly the front runner, or he's doing anything specifically that kind of stands out from Fave and Moga. Moga, I thought for sure played a lot better.
Yeah.
I think he's still doing a really good job at taking care of the ball. There was a couple throws there where, maybe he may want back, but his connection with Sean Miller was great. Obviously, Fave, I still thought he played good, honestly. Like you said, the one to Trey Moore, I mean, he tossed it off his back foot, and it was kind of like a prayer, and he went up and got it. The interception was rough. I believe Tavion Combs was bearing down on
Yeah,
him, and
coming right at him. Yeah.
so it's hard to tell if it would have been a sack, but still a throw he's going to want to have back. And of course, running the ball, he's been effective doing that, whether that's off platform or extending the play. He's been really good. It's close. It's only getting closer, if anything. It is hard to kind of make, you know, a decision on who you really think is the number one guy at this point. But I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to come down to the late date that it kind of posted it on.
Yeah, and I probably should have added this context for everybody listening at home. I mean, of course, right now it is a three-way quarterback competition between Luke Moga, former four-star Oregon transfer, Toa Fabe, true sophomore at UNM, and then James Laubstein, a six-year senior who was, of course, the backup quarterback last year, was really, really effective in those run packages and what he kind of brought to the team there. I agree with a lot of what you said. I feel like Moga to me had a couple shakier practices maybe heading in because I feel like there is, like you said, he's always done a good job protecting the ball, probably more so than maybe more so I think overall than at least in camp than Fave, and then probably a little bit better than Lobstein, frankly. But it does feel like there's a difference. There's a difference between to me in terms of, hey, you're protecting the ball and you're doing smart things with it, but you're just not taking the shots that you kind of need to. And that's been something I've kind of I don't know. I felt that I saw a little bit of that more bleed in this week, but I felt yesterday was a good step away from that.
Yeah, like you don't want like I don't want to necessarily he's playing not to lose the job.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it feels in a way. I thought he was more aggressive during the scrimmage, specifically more than the first one. I mean, even maybe throughout practice. He was just throwing more balls over the middle. He took a couple more deep shots than maybe usual. And so you don't want the quarterback to necessarily play to not lose the job because at the end of the day, you want to have explosives. And so Fave takes more chances, but with more chances comes more turnovers, unfortunately. So you kind of have this competition where you feel like one guy's maybe trying to gain traction, the other guy's maybe trying not to lose any.
Yeah.
And with Lawson, he kind of sits kind of in the middle, kind of knowing, hey, I'm not going live. The team knows what I can do. I'm just gonna keep I'm just gonna keep the train running. I'm not gonna turn the ball over. I'm gonna use my legs. I'm gonna make some smart decisions. And so it's gonna be interesting to see where they fall in.
I was, you always look forward to the scrimmages, particularly of a quarterback battle, because it makes sense that those should be the days where there is the most separation. But like you said, it feels like every scrimmage, it's just gotten even closer, and we're coming into the home stretch now. I hate to put you on the spot because I've been put on the spot a lot, and I've had to say I don't know yet. I feel like I have a guess now. Gun to your head, I mean, or you're up against the wire. Who's gonna start game one for UNM this year? If you had to take that guess off of everything you've seen to this point.
As of right now, the day of recording this, I would say it's probably going to be Lobstein.
Yeah.
I think when you just look at what Jack Lane did last year, he was smart. Maybe he threw the ball away more than some fans would like. He picked up the turnovers at the end of the year. Um, and I kind of feel like that's kind of what Laubstein gives them, but he's also more athletic, and he kind of adds that element into the offense. Now, if they really want to, test the waters and see if they can get more explosives, then I kind of think they're going to lean Moga.
Hmm.
Because quite frankly, he does have a better arm, and I think he's extending plays. He's got to start stepping up in the pocket a little bit more and not running backwards all the time. But if as we're recording this, I would probably say it's Lobstein.
Yeah, I feel similarly, especially after yesterday, and part of that is kind of the usage, the usage signaling into the sense of, he took every single one with the first team and all that, and I tried to press sec a little bit. Hey, did that mean something? And he did not bite, which I give him credit for. But I had been kind of a Moga guy, but I think Lobstein is he's just been steadier overall. And Moga hadn't quite well, through a lot of camp, Moga hadn't quite hit some of those days and practices where it feels like every other throw is a throwaway. And that's not the worst thing, but you do kind of want to see a guy be a bit more aggressive. Now, if Lobstein's starting, who's going to be the second string? Do you have a guess on that?
I would still say it's Moga,
Yeah.
just because, like Fave, it's just the turnovers. And like Eck has made it very clear that's kind of what it is. We had the fumble in the first scrimmage in the red zone, and then the interception. I'm not going to say it's like completely on him. He had pressure in his face, but still, he had a couple more throws that were, including the one to Trey Moore, that was kind of like that's more of the receiver making the play, if anything. And so I think, they don't want to have a situation where they're losing games because they have more turnovers than they're maybe normally accustomed to.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's really what they want. One of the two kind of key tenets they want out of the quarterbacks. Protect the football, make sure that happens, don't turn it over, and they should be in a spot where they should be able to work with that regardless. I did want to ask you second scrimmage as well. We kind of got the quarterbacks out of the way. What else kind of stood out to you, and what else kind of had your attention?
I mean, we both saw it. I thought Sean Miller has started to really catch fire as of late. The receiving group is deep. They got the four freshmen who have all, made their plays. And of course, guys like Zyle Smith, Cater Joe, they're all making their plays. But I thought Sean Miller has really started to pick it up. Obviously, he and coach both mentioned, the recovering from the surgery on his hand, and maybe he had some drops at the beginning of camp where you were kind of shaking your head a little bit. But I mean, he's been catching almost everything, if not everything, the last week or so. And it gives you, or at least me, more confidence about the receivers, with O'Meary still not fully participating. Just kind of knowing that, they're going to have a guy they'll be able to rely on, maybe when it's a 3rd and 7 in the fourth quarter, or, so I've liked what he's done a lot.
I think UNM, and I think we all agree, UNM will be a better team with if Troy O'Meary is the leading receiver and kind of plays up to his potential, then this is going to be a very good team, very good receiving core. But yeah, I mean, we were at all those practices and Miller wasn't the only guy dropping the ball early on. Let's be clear, but we were at those practices and it was a lot of drops. It was something that we talked about on the sideline and all that. And yeah, I don't think you can kind of understate how big that is, just in the sense that that is a fifth year guy that needs to be a reliable set of hands, needs to be a reliable guy to get separation, run good routes, and do that. And the fact that that's finally happening, yeah, that that is definitely giving me a more optimistic view on the receiver room at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the other guys too. I think Joe, like Coach mentioned it too. Like he's been a great blocker, even when
Yeah.
they're running simple drills in terms of blocking, whether it's a safety or a corner. Zyle Smith, I think, has been kind of like a guy who continues to make plays. He kind of flies under the radar a little bit.
Good TD yesterday. I mean, he stretched up and got that one too.
Yeah, he's a little smaller, but he's got speed. He's got downfield ability. So I think he's going to play a pivotal role.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the freshman. I mean, Darling has still worked his way back from the hamstring injury. But I mean, Messiah Mingo, Balin George, Dorian Patterson. I mean, it's going to be hard to not at least have some kind of role for them throughout the season that they've earned it.
What have you, Miles Williams, what have you really kind of seen from him? Because I mean, in the spring, he was dealing with a bit of an injury, so you really had maybe a third of spring ball in. From your point, I mean, what have you kind of liked out of him from what you've seen?
He's kind of similar to to Sean Miller a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he has inside outside flexibility. Because he has only played like what it feels like a third of camp, it's hard to kind of grasp on what his role may look like. He's another veteran guy that I think they're going to rely on. I think I think he and Sean will be two guys they go to early on, just because they've been there or they have more experience. I think he's been really good in the underneath game. He's
Yeah.
had some fire hands. There's nothing I would say, not that he hasn't been a good player or anything, but just there's not a lot to say in terms of like, oh, where I think he's going to slot in terms of the rotation or, how he looks in terms of the trust with the quarterbacks and whatnot. So I think we need to see more from him, or at least I need to see more personally before making any kind of like, hey, a judgment of where he's going to slide in and whatnot.
I feel like I need to see because I really like Williams' burst, and I think that has been something that really popped to me in the spring when he was healthy, and throughout camp you're seeing some of it. I wanted to see more of it, frankly. But yeah, I think he's going to be a rotation guy. He was a guy that I kind of looked at his numbers and some of the Eastern Washington tape and said, oh, this is probably a little bit more, maybe not a true slam dunk, but this is a good ad, and I think it is a good ad. I just want to see a little bit more there. I did want to hit you with this too, some kind of quick ones. Position groups, offense or defense. Do you have one that from the start of camp, really August 5th of this month, from when everything got going, that you are, you think their stock is way up from where you kind of saw them heading into camp? Offense
It's
or defense?
it's probably honestly the safeties.
Really?
Um, The reason why is not necessarily because I didn't think they were gonna be good. Tavion Combs is great. Austin Brawley's great. I think it's the depth. I really
Yeah.
like Speech. I really like CJ McBean, who continues to dominate in scrimmages. Kevin Longstreet has made plays. They got like five guys at safety that you honestly like. Not that there wouldn't be any kind of drop off, but if someone were to go down, God forbid, you're not gonna be losing sleep over it. And I thought they've made plays. There's been little to no deep shots on them. I mean, there has been maybe one or two. Like Moga found DJ Darling on one, and
It
he
was
was
like
just
the first week of
better.
camp. It was the first
Yeah,
week of camp, and I think it's the one real deep shot we've seen
yeah.
connected on throughout camp.
I mean, I think coverage wise, they've been great. I mean, they've been coming up and hitting. Brawley really turned it on last week.
Yeah.
It's kind of the sky is blue kind of a type of answer. But I just really,
Like Marco Beltran too,
yes, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for mentioning him. He has made multiple plays. He had a 4th-and-1 stop on the scrimmage yesterday that sealed the drive defensively for them. I really like that group.
Do you have a position group, offense or defense, that from where you kind of came into camp, your stock is you're kind of looking at their stock's maybe a little bit down, which is kind of weird because for the most part, like yeah, this is the deepest on paper, deepest and on paper, the best UNM team I've seen them in time in the beat. But do you have kind of a choice there?
I don't think there's been anything dramatic. Maybe you have seen something. I would say, I mean, not that the corners have been bad. I just think if somebody were to go down, I think the depth would be tested. Uh,
I think they're a lot deeper than they were last year.
I
I
think
really, it's similar to the safeties. I really like their depth.
I like Torres, I like McLean, but both, it's not like they've been, straight lockdown guys, in my opinion, at least.
McLean's had some in and out moments too.
Yeah,
I mean, in the first scrimmage, he had that one play. He threw, was it? Did he throw Balin to the ground like after a play?
yes, yeah.
You just can't be doing that, even though that's not quite a true football play, but you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, Torres is a young player too. He played last year as a true freshman, and sometimes I mean, corner is arguably the hardest position outside of quarterback, and so getting beat is normal at practice. But like I like Frankie Edwards a lot. I think he's played great. Armani
Yeah.
Arnold has played great. I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think the depth, in my opinion, and we both can have or both disagree to agree on it, is better than last year, but last year's depth was pretty pretty weak last
It
year.
was thin. Yeah, I will give you that. It was very thin.
Yeah. And so I just think, if somebody were to go down, it could be tested a little bit. I'm not worried about them. It's hard to choose a position group where you kind of feel like, oh, maybe you're like, overthinking a little bit or having second thoughts about. Because quite frankly, like you said, that the roster from top to bottom has like almost little to no weaklings. So I feel like fine about the corners. I don't feel bad. I'm just, I would say, the depth. If somebody were to go down, maybe they have issues there. But other than that, I mean, the only one I can think about is quarterback. So.
I think what I like, and we can get to that second point. I think what I like about the corners is that, last year you were going in with Abe Williams and John Johnson, and Abe Williams was kind of your number one corner, and John Johnson was kind of the two guy. And John Johnson ended up being there. I mean, to me, John Johnson was the best corner. I mean, I think you can make an argument, maybe Frankie. I thought Johnson was the best. I thought Johnson set the tone out there in a lot of respects. Um, but one of your top level guys, I mean, dealt with injury all year, and when he did play, and this is no offense to Abe, who's not playing receiver, he wasn't that kind of number one guy immediately in the way that he was expected to be. I don't have that worry with Frankie and Armani. I mean, they've shown me it already. I like what they're doing, and I don't have a lot of real worries there. But I would agree. I think if I had to pick a stock down, it might be the quarterbacks, and that's not maybe that's not so much just they haven't played well, but I think at this point we were expecting somebody to be separated from the others and kind of in there. And you probably shouldn't punish guys for the fact that other guys were playing well. It's more of a decision, but I don't know. I think there is something to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually a good thing if you have a competition where it's hard to make a decision because guys are playing good, right?
Every coach will 100% say that. That
Yeah.
absolutely yes.
It's a good problem to have, but it's a problem in a way where it's like you're still having to try and figure out who's going to lead this team because at the end of the day, you don't want to go into the season where it's like you're having to double think every week who you want to play, right?
Yeah.
Because if you commit to Laubstein and he kind of like comes out of the gate maybe not the way you expected, you kind of committed to him, and I think if you're playing this back and forth game throughout the season it's going to affect you. And with a team that has championship, caliber aspirations, that's not going to do you any favors. And so that's why I think this quarterback decision is going to be extremely pivotal because you're not just naming a guy for Central Michigan. You're essentially committing to a guy for the season, and you have to have that belief in him.
Yeah, 100%. And there is something, I mean, yeah, there is something to that element of, yeah, you want to name the guy who's proven himself and he's, shown he's the best over how many practices and all that data set or whatever. But you have to pick what direction you want. And do you want to have a guy like Moga that takes care of the ball and is kind of electric on the run, but maybe isn't hitting a lot of those kind of deep downfield shots. Like, do you want Laubstein, all that, the more seasoned guy? That is it is tricky, and I don't know what the best course of action for them is. I think it's going to be Laubstein, as you kind of said too, but
Yeah. I think
I
he
don't know.
just has his floor. That's how I'd put it.
That's a good point. I like that. And do you want the high floor? Do you want the high ceiling?
That's kind of the conversation I've had back in my head because I feel
It's
like
on the coaches. It's on the coaches. We're not making the decision, but
yeah, Moga and Fave to me have a higher ceiling but a lower floor. Lobstein has a higher floor but kind of a lower ceiling. So it's like, and they won 9 games with a quarterback that you could argue has a high floor and maybe the ceiling isn't as high as maybe Moga or Fave. But like you said, that's the coach's decision. So
yeah, and I am interested too. I mean, Eck did say, hey, we played two quarterbacks last year, not in the way that, to bring them up again, like Central Michigan kind of did last year, where they truly rotated guys like drive in, drive out. They had the packages for Lobestein and all that. I would be curious too what it would look like with if Lobestein is the kind of the starter. And what Moga and Fave, how their roles probably kind of look there. Because Fave, they tried to put in a package for him last year and it went one play and they just ditched it because it went for a loss. But that was that. Similar note too, a little bit more precise. Stock up. Is there one player that you're kind of looking at and saying, yeah, he has absolutely improved his stock in my eyes over this however many practices it's been, like 13 or whatever?
I have boring answers for you. I mean, okay,
You
I'll
were
say that.
faithful, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll rip off a few. I won't get too deep into it. Obviously Trey Moore has been phenomenal. I don't think he's gonna be a guy that's gonna take the field right away.
Oh, I've told Edge this, and for people like not like at home that like maybe that haven't done this before, like when you're a reporter and you're covering camp, there is always like one like freshman, like you kind of look, or like a younger guy, an underclassman that you kind of look at, and you're like, man, like I really like what he's doing. He's playing against the threes, like, and so you have that moment, like Jacob Godfrey, the receiver in 23. I think he's still at ULM. Like that was my guy. I was like, man, Jacob Godfrey, like this kid's got something, but he's doing it against the threes.
Yeah.
And Trey Moore is Edge's Jacob Godfrey.
Yeah, dude, like I'm just a sucker for just like 6'5"
He's
tight
huge. I mean,
end.
he's long. Like
Yeah, they had him listed as receiver, and then like first day of camp, first 2 days of camp, he's running with the tight ends. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right. Like, he's just got a huge catch radius, man. I mean, he can play in line, he can play in the slot. Yes, he's doing it against the threes, but he's a freshman. So he's a guy that I'm just keeping in the back of my head. He's just made plays. He just continues to make plays. But their tight end room is set with Keith and Walsh, Simon Mappa, great
yep.
block. So they're set there. It's not like he's gonna come in and just be like Dorian Thomas or something, but he's just a guy that I thought has just really stood out. The boring answers, I mean, it's kind of honestly the interior of the offensive line has been phenomenal. Caden Robinett, Jamar Tassi, Malik Alian, they're boring answers, but they have been stout in pass pro. I mean, there has been little to no interior sacks. A lot of the sacks that we've seen
Coming in
are
on the edges. Yeah.
yes, it's Brody and Carhu kind of getting home because the coverage has been great and the quarterback's holding on to the ball. Those guys have been great pass protecting. Run blocking I think has been like it's not bad, but it's not like amazing. I think hopefully they'll have a better run game, but just those three guys in the interior I think have just done a phenomenal job, and that'll definitely help whoever the starting quarterback is.
Is there a player or maybe a few that in the similar vein is what we kind of talked about earlier? Maybe you thought they were going to be right, here, and then their stock is kind of trended down a little bit throughout camp.
Um, it probably like
I'll say honestly, after the first week and a half, my Miller stock was pretty low, but he's
yeah.
ended up turning it around. That's kind of what
Yeah.
I was looking at there.
Yeah, if he hadn't had the turnaround or the week he had, he'd probably be the first answer. Um, it probably Moga in a way because I thought going into camp that he was really going to kind of separate himself. And it's not like he's played bad. I just don't think he's done what I thought maybe most expected.
Yeah.
The other guy, honestly, once again, not that they're playing bad and not that they're like all of a sudden like non-factors. But I thought Cameron Matthews has kind of been, in the spring he popped, and Kiefer Sibley is, objectively been a lot better than him, specifically in the scrimmages.
Oh, yeah, and the scrimmages, I don't know. I would disagree a little bit. Like I think Cam has been fine. I think Sibley has really popped in the sense that he's finally like pretty comfortable in this offense. And like, yeah,
I
a
mean,
couple explosives will help your
yeah.
case.
Like I said, he hasn't been bad. Don't get me wrong, but I think I expected him to maybe take more of another jump after the spring, specifically in the run game. There hasn't been a lot of explosives in the run game, and obviously he's working with the twos. He's not always working with the ones, so that plays a factor too. And then in the receiving game too, I don't think there's been a lot. I guess I just expected more. That obviously could change, and he could just come out flying out the gate and shut me up, which I hope he does. But I think I just expected more from Cameron, I guess. I thought they want to play three guys. And they don't want Scottrade just to be ran down over and over again. And
No.
so that second running back position was kind of like important to me. And I think like I personally don't think it's like Cameron Matthews is the number two guy no matter what. I think Sibley has like carved out a role for him and for himself. And I don't think Cameron is like a solidified RB2. I think it's going to be split snaps between those guys, and eventually you get to a point where you like one over the other.
Yeah, I like that you built it on that because I think that's a better way of putting it because out of the spring it was Scottrade 1, Cam 2, and they were pretty close in a lot of respects, frankly, given what Cameron did during the spring. I think now it is a little bit more of a question for that RB2 spot. I think I'd probably still say Cameron. I
Yeah,
know Sibley's played well. I would still probably say Cameron, and I think Sibley, and frankly, we do the RB1, RB2, RB3 kind of thing. They really don't look at it like that. I mean, and that's, I think Sibley is their best pass catching back. I like what he has given them there too.
that's kind of why I say like
Yeah,
I feel like he could kind of carve out the RB2 role for himself because he has done more in the passing game, or at least has done more than what I've expected from Matthews.
yeah, and the Moga point is really interesting too because on one hand, I get, and I've heard this from fans too, and I don't think it's a bad point to make. I get why there is like some disappointment, like, hey, I thought this guy was going to run away with the job. But he didn't run away with the job in the spring. And yes, it's the first time playing the offense and all that, but he really wasn't even close to kind of taking the lead there. It was still Jack Lane and then Moga and Fave kind of basically on the same level. And I remember writing that at the end of spring that, what I learned was that Lane was still the number one guy. Well, Lane's, questionable officially for Central Michigan. I don't think either of us have any expectation that he's going to play in that game. I don't know how long it's going to go on with the elbow injury, but yeah, the Moga point, I think that's a good one to make too. And I do think that is something that I think some fans are feeling some disappointment about. You got this four-star guy, you got this Oregon guy, and he just hasn't kind of grabbed the reins the way that people really have wanted him to.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like how you put it that way. Like I said, he hasn't been bad by any means.
No,
Quite
if
frankly,
anything, he's had some good days and some good
yeah,
moments.
if anything, I think he has the highest potential out of all these guys. But he just haven't seen it, fully come to fruition throughout practice, and hence why we're still don't have a starting quarterback named, and it might come down to the wire. So, maybe he puts together a couple, good practices and really just, finds his rhythm, and it becomes clear. But yeah, not, don't feed too much into the whole like stock down, just more of like a kind of didn't go the way maybe you expected.
Yeah, I was kind of on my first take zone with the stock up, stock down segment. But Edge, thank you so much for coming on today. I've really enjoyed talking with you today. I've really enjoyed talking with you like every practice, frankly, as well. Where can people find your work and how can people support it?
So I write for the Daily Lobo, the school student newspaper. You can just go to thedailylobo.com. We have some good writers over there, a little bit of everything just to stay updated with all your local news. They have reviews. They got all kinds of good stuff, so go check it out. You can find me on X at by Edge Garcia. I'm posting, practice updates there. The articles I'm writing up for both the Daily Lobo and the Pit Press. I'm thankful to be able to do that. On Instagram as well, by Edge Garcia. I post the articles there too. So I'm active both places. It's a privilege being able to go out there and watch these guys play ball and talk about it. And Sean's been a phenomenal help. Truly, truly appreciate you, man.
I've been yapping while you're trying to take notes and get to it.
Yeah,
Like,
we're ball,
yapping the
man.
whole time.
We love watching Gabriel sling the ball, man, during the freeze.
Shout out to Gabriel Mochenbacher because I've made a couple notes of it, but he is not a guy that is factoring into the quarterback competition at present. But Gabriel Mochenbacher will get out there and he will sling it. He will make some throws. He had a couple to KJ Cherry yesterday that definitely caught my eye for sure.
Yeah, he slings it, man. But no, that's where you guys can find me. And Sean's been great, and I appreciate everything.
Edge, thank you again, man. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it.